Well, hello there, peculiars. You are here once again for a wonderful show, and this time we're going to be talking about radium, which a lot of this takes place in the 1920s. And since I did the fun peculiar proof video in the sort of female 1920s getup, I decided maybe I would go for male this time. So, hey, peculiar, says Lorelei. Howdy from Houston, says Susan. What else we have here? Let's see. Oh, but she's pumped anyway. Lexi's excited. Everyone's excited. We've got you love the eyeliner? Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a lot more work than I expected. And I'm still never actually going to be as good at eyeliner as Charming Disaster as Elia. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm really excited because I have a couple of announcements before we bring anyone on. And the first announcement is that, yes, friends, there is a Davey baby. There's a Davey baby that I get to introduce. Yes, a little baby boy, and his name is Blake. And Davey wanted me to make sure that I shared all the details, like weight and all that stuff. And I forget all of it. It's like 7 pounds and some stuff. Baby sized. It's a baby sized baby. But anyway, he's everyone's doing well, and they will be back from the hospital soon. So, without further ado, I'm very excited tonight to bring two different guests. We're gonna be bringing Charming Disaster on in a little bit, as you know. But before we do that, I want to introduce the most wonderful author of the most bizarre and interesting book that I've read in a long time, Half Lives. And so, without further ado, welcome, Lucy. Yes, that's a new thing, guys. It's an ink explosion. I'm very proud of it. How are you doing, Lucy?
That was really good. I wasn't really sure what to expect with that. It was brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. Getting a lot of hi babies. Hi to baby Blake. Yes. Hi, Davy baby. And they were in the hospital for a long time. And I was like, wow, that's labor. That's why I have cats, but really awesome. Susan says it's our peculiar baby. Now we're going to have one that we can totally, very nice transition. Thank you, Lex. I tried to find an actual squid doing that, which was harder than you might, like, they're just not very cooperative sometimes. But anyway, Lucy, as you know, I'm a big fan of your book. I actually was there for the launch. It was very exciting. But what charms me about it is that you really capture the atmosphere of sort of the 1920s and the excitement over science and the weird things people did with it. I mean, it's not exactly, I mean, think of all of everyone's like so worried about vaccines, but are willing to like drink bleach and ivermectin. And so now I feel like, oh, I kind of see.
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, the 1920s and stuff is my first love. I
Yeah.
came to the history of science and the history of medicine through the 20s and 30s because I just wanted to know what was going on at this point and what they were up to, really. So
Yeah.
that's how I came into it. So I love the fact that people seem to be responding to the
Mhm.
20s-ness of it and the 30s-ness
Yes.
of it because
Well, true. It extends a little bit. And speaking of the 20s, I also know that you are a huge, not everybody knows this, peculiar. She's a cocktail aficionado. Like if you follow Lucy in her other lives, in her other worlds, you're in for a treat. She's the one who introduced me to dress evening pajamas, or what exactly. We had this wonderful conversation. What were those?
pajamas.
Cocktail pajamas. Yes, she introduced me to. There are cocktail pajamas. You guys, this is our thing. If you like. Speaking of which, what are you drinking, Lucy?
I am drinking a pink gin,
Oh,
which is
pink
actually
gin.
orange. So that's frozen gin with a couple of drops of bitters. I added in homage to your cocktail, I added some absinthe to it.
Oh, nice,
It's
nice.
delicious, but doesn't change the color at all. But I am
Oh, yeah.
drinking it from a uranium stemmed glass.
Very nice uranium glass. I actually found some uranium glass at an antique store, but it was inordinately expensive, and so I was not able to. Yes, Anthro Girl says book club and cocktail pajamas. Yes, please. So what are you all drinking? I'm hoping you guys can share a little bit. I know there were some different takes. Several people were not quite sure about my whole putting chartreuse and absinthe together, but it does work. It's not quite as brilliant green as say like something with Midori would be. And I'm not sure if it glows in the dark. Maybe I will glow in the dark eventually. Lexi says her fiance has a suit onesie. It's like cocktail pajamas. Leanne loves your glass. I do too. It's really beautiful. Um, Susan Cutter also says cocktail. Yeah, see, not just for breakfast. I'm telling you, there's a lot of mileage we could get out of this, guys. We could. I feel like there could be a whole peculiar fashion show, around that. But anyway, to your health or not necessarily. If you're drinking radium water, I see your stem is radium glass, but not your actual glass.
No, that wasn't a deliberate decision. I just needed a uranium glass for when I launched the book, and that was the only one that I could find on eBay because I didn't have one. But actually, I'm quite delighted with my lifestyle choices on this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, very nice. Jennifer Pierce has an interesting. She said, "I'm honestly kind of surprised we managed to survive as humans after it was seemingly impossible to avoid eating, drinking, or wearing something radioactive back then. I mean, it is kind of strange."
Yes, I mean, a lot of the issues with eating off uranium or radium stuff, mostly uranium, is because it's toxic rather than because it's
Right.
radioactive.
Sure.
So if
Also
if the
not good.
bowl if the bowl of this was made with uranium glass and I had something in it that like acidic or something like that, something that leached, then I would be very
Right.
scared. But I think gin's fine. I mean, gin kills off anything anyway, doesn't it? So
It's I'm, I one kind of toxin meets another kind of toxin. Maybe they'll play nice.
best friends, of course.
Leanne said, "I remember asking to leave first grade class to go to the utility closet to watch my watch glow." And I had one of those too. But of course, that's not today's glow in the dark is not actually radium oriented. And you told me in the book some of the glow in the dark things back then weren't actually radium oriented either, but a lot of people said that they were to kind of build up the
Yeah. I mean, glowing stuff existed before radioactivity
Mhm.
even was known about. And then, when radium becomes very fashionable, anything that glows, like if it's made from phosphorus or anything like that, anything that glows is called radium, just to sort of tie into the fashion. And then, of course, radium stops being used around about the 1960s. So if you have like a watch or a clock that dates later than the 60s, it's probably not radium. It might be some other very mild radioactive substance. But yeah, but we have the peak of glow in the dark watches and clocks in the sort of 30s and 40s and into the 50s as well. But after that, they tend to calm it down a bit.
My glow in the dark watch was Kermit the Frog.
Mm-hmm.
Kermit glowed in the dark.
Well, there's actually Disney released a Mickey Mouse glow in the dark watch in 1948, and it is actually powered by radium. So you've got
Look out, Vicky.
so Mickey. It was like the I don't know, the 40th anniversary of Mickey Mouse being in existence. But they had Mickey and Donald and all of the characters, and they were all glow in the dark. And on the box it says radium watches and things like that, and they were genuinely made from radium. So as
Maybe,
a kid,
could
I know
explain why they're giant mice. I don't know.
I do know someone that had a watch in given a watch. She was born in the early 1940s, and she does have a radium Mickey Mouse watch, which I think is absolutely fascinating.
Fun for children.
Yes, perfect for children. I mean, who wouldn't give a radium
Right,
to radium to a
I don't know.
kid?
This country seems like people give guns away like that. So it says my dive watch has glow in the dark to see in dark water, which is pretty cool too. Also, Lorelei Peterson, just a shout out to Charming Disaster. She spends a lot of time singing "There Is No Antidote to Your Soul," and yeah, I actually do that as well. So does Anthro Girl. So I hear it in my sleep, kind of. But one of the questions I have, and I know I've asked this of you before, is your way in to radium is kind of unusual, and I find it, it's really it's cool, it's makeup oriented, and so I wonder if you could give us a little while everyone else, there's a little bit of a delay, so while people are putting their questions, you guys go ahead and keep typing your questions into the chat. I wonder if you could just expand a little bit on how you got into it, because I know that you have a few items of show and tell that are related. And we like show and tell. Do we like show and tell? Yes, everybody, we do. We do like show and tell. Okay, well, then I think you should tell us a little bit how you got started and also do some show and tell. I'm going to make you bigger so everyone can see a little bit better.
I will sit back because it's huge when you do that. Yes, so I think it's fair enough to say that I am not a scientist. I'm not a natural scientist at all. So my way in to the unlikely history of radium was very much not science orientated, and I can actually show you how it happened. So I am actually more of a historian of cosmetics, and I know there is science behind cosmetics and beauty stuff, but I was more into how it looked and how it felt and what it meant. And I used to go to auction houses and just buy any old stuff, like house clearances, boxes full of powders and lipsticks and toothpaste, any old stuff that no one else actually wanted. But one day I bought one of these boxes, opened it up, and I found in it some powder. And it was this. I mean, I've just actually had to take it out of the radioactive material bag that one of the universities insists that I keep it in. And this is when I usually start finding it on my fingers and start sneezing and things. But I found this. So which way is that? So this is just says Thoradia powder. And on the back, if I get it the right way, I'm trying not to, inhale all of it. So on it, it says Thoradia powder from the formula of Dr. Alfred Curie. And at the bottom, it has the ingredients. So it's radium bromide and thorium sulfide. And it's got the amount of radium and thorium in it. And it gets everywhere. Anyway, so basically, I was a little bit surprised when I read this. I was a little bit surprised when I read this because it was
like
really, really unexpected.
You might be a little bit surprised.
I was not expecting it. And, like I said earlier, that I love the 1920s and 1930s. And I was just appreciating it for its Art Deco-ness. So you've got this beautiful silver, this beautiful black. I mean, it's gorgeous. And then I read it. So really, I got intrigued. And I wanted to know why people were using this and I mean, what they were thinking of. So I Googled it, as every good historian does, and I found one website, someone called, I know him now, his name is James Bennett, and he runs a website called Cosmetics and Skin. And if you are interested in beauty, absolutely go for it, because he has the most amazing deep dives into all of these historical beauty companies or themes or stuff. It is a wonderful site. It's cosmeticsandskin.com, I think. So I got into it that way. And I do say that I'm not a natural scientist, but by absolute coincidence, I actually work for the British Society for the History of Science. And it was
a hell of a coincidence there, Lucy.
I mean, it is really. I mean, because when I went for the job interview, they were like, "What do you think of the history of science?" And I was like, I've literally never heard of it before I saw this application. Because my background is running membership organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got into it. But, it just felt like a perfect storm. I was interested in beauty. I found this thing that was clearly rooted in science. And now I had perfect conversations to talk to the people at the British Society for the History of Science about. He probably previously thought that all I was interested in was red lips. And now I was like, oh, but did you know about radium?
Yeah, that's right. Because there's this lovely connection. I was just noticing. I put up a couple comments. Lexi was talking about the fact that before we had the term scientist, we had the term natural philosopher, and I think these days we sort of put things in pedestals, and we also tend to put them in boxes. And there's actually a lot of bleed over for a lot of things that we do. Leanne was talking about uranium miners. I know you're going to say a few words about that because you've been to some of these places. You've actually gone, and I think that's terrifying and interesting at the same time. But that they got cancer just the same, it's miners, poor miners. What didn't they call it? It was like a minor sickness, wasn't it?
Yeah. God, I'm gonna have to get my own book to find out the actual term. But yeah, it was called something like the Klumpf something. But yeah, in what was Bohemia and now is the Czech Republic, where the uranium mines where Marie Curie first found her, was using her pitch blend that she used to discover radium and polonium. Polonium, yes. One of my biggest problems is that I always say plutonium when I mean polonium, and polonium when I mean plutonium. Yes, polonium. So Marie Curie got some pitch blend, which is a uranium-based ore from the mountains of Yakimov. And yes, the mine is there. I mean, I do touch on it a little bit in the radium book. I will touch on it a lot more in the follow-up book, which is specifically about uranium, because the miners of Yakimov, I mean, it's a sad history back in from the 1890s onwards, but in the 1940s you get a lot of prisoners of war who are forced to work in the uranium mines of Yakimov, mining for uranium for nuclear projects as well.
Right.
That becomes even more sadder, because at that time, the authorities know how to
and they're still and they're still doing the
and
thing.
they're still and they're using
really
prisoners of war as well. So it's a really sad story.
Leona is concerned with your health. She's like, shouldn't you go wash your hands or something? There was like, oh no, we've killed Lucy.
Well, one of the things that I rarely say, because it makes me sound slightly insane, is that one of the greatest things about this pot was that it was completely sealed. So when you take off the lid, there's like a little powder seal, so it stops it doing this. And of course, me being really cat-handed, the minute I put my hands on it, I stuck my finger in it and got like literally a massive cloud of this dust. Then I turned it over and was like, oh shoot, shit.
Oh yeah,
what it's made of, eh? So yeah, I did. There was a point where I thought this might be like my superhero origin story or something like that.
Oh yeah. Nothing happened.
Oh. No, it's been years and literally nothing has happened. I've just got older and sadder. It's just.
But there's alcohol, which, I mean, right, it makes it less sad. And if you drink enough of it, you don't notice that you're old anymore, I've discovered.
No, until you come to something like this and your massive faces.
They did that to me on Mysteries at the Museum. They zoomed in on just my one eye. Just what? It's like HD, people. I mean, like there's things hidden in those creases. Leanne was talking about the miners. Her ex was a mine geologist, so that they like to smoke in the mine. It's so terrifying when you think about that.
Lighting
I've got a couple other things. Lexi was talking about the uranium doc, and that her students really love it. And I love that, like, you've been to some of these places, have you not?
Yes, I've been to Joachimsthal, which I can't say, which is actually Yakimov. I can say Yakimov, which is the more modern name. So I can say that. So I've been to Yakimov for sure. I've been to a few places. I've been to a place in Austria called Bad Gastein, which has radium water. Like radon spas, so it's a radium spa tan.
Did you go into the you went into the spa? You did.
So I've done several. So when I went to Yakimov, I did a radium bath there, and I did it at the Radium Palace Hotel, which I talk about in the book. So that opened in about 1912, 1913. It's this most amazing, beautiful white building in the hills, in the mountains of the Czech Republic. So gorgeous. And you go into this sort of like quite old-fashioned hotel, and then you book your radium spa, and then you go down into the basement, which is the original basement where they've had these treatments for over 100 years. And then it becomes quite clinical, like you they let you go and have one radium spa, but if you wanted more than one, you have to have blood work and doctor's prescriptions and things like that. It's very serious. And I did speak to people that were in the hotel, and people go every year. It's the place that they go to get health, to be healthy.
Even now.
Yeah, even now.
Lexi's like, I'm so jealous. Go.
I've been there, and then I've also been to Bad Gastein in Austria, and that's also another radium town. And I had another radium bath there. The difference between the place I was in Bad Gastein and the one in Yakimov is the one in Yakimov is really brutal. It's like metal baths and curtains around, and there's hundreds of people in the same room, and there's bells going off, and very efficient women in white outfits coming in there. You naked, go, because you've got to do these in the nud, I'm afraid. So it's all like full, regimented and all of that stuff. The one I did in Austria was a little bit more chill. It was in the most beautiful green tiled room. It was like 1920s. It felt really lovely, gorgeous.
Yeah, I remember reading about the baths in Germany, and this was not radium baths, but they're like, yeah, and basically everyone's naked the whole time. And I was like, there's not like a towel, like no, you just streak between rooms. And I was like, wow, well, I mean, okay, that's okay. Yeah, good to know.
I've done a few
good to know.
European spas that are non-radium as well, and yeah,
there's a lot of being okay with your body right there, which I'm all for.
No, I'm totally. But I was reminiscing the other day about the time I was sitting in the corner quietly, and some guy came up, and his towel was behind me, and he just sort of leant over me to pick up the towel.
You're like,
yeah, not radioactive, but if it had been radioactive,
our miming skills on this show are top notch, actually. I did want to say I almost forgot that we did pick a name. We did pick a name. We had a couple. Yeah, I kind of agree. And the girl's like, I'm okay with my body. I don't want to see a bunch of other people's. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all, but cool. That's good on you. We did pick names, and we had actually a winner and a runner up, and so they will both get our lovely squid pins. We have 3 squid pins for Julius Sees Her, our mascot. And so the first, actually, I think it's behind me. Normally I have these things in a hat, and it's much cooler than this, but normally I also have Davey. Who's in here? So let's see. Revigator. The Revigator is the winner. So it's the chosen by Lucy, and the runner-up was the Polonium Punch. So that's Jerry Lloyd was the Revigator, and the Tori Trent, that's Polonium Punch. So good on you guys. Those are both really funny, and so I've added them both. These do go in a book at the end of the year, so we do have a cocktail sort of handbook. And now I'm actually getting. The Peculiars are sending me recipes. This is awesome. You just keep it coming, guys. Pictures and recipes is awesome. And so now this book is going to be like getting bigger and bigger. How dare he spawn a child? Lexi, I asked that question too. Actually, it's really cool because you realize this child is going to be indoctrinated in Peculiars like its whole life. It's ours. So let's see here. Oh, and so Teresa also said that this is also true in Japan. Yeah, I think most other places are just a little bit better with naked than we are. I blame Hollywood. I do. I think it's their fault.
I mean, or us. There's no. I'm not aware of any naked spas in the UK either. I mean, it's.
Oh no, Kathleen hasn't gotten her opinion. You know what? I can send more. I just found out that one of our guests, Sarah, she lives in Alaska, and she hasn't gotten her swag bag from December yet. Goodness. Jennifer Pierce has a question for you. She said, did you ever see one of those glowing golf balls?
Not in real life, but I do know someone that has one. So I've not. Have I seen it glow? Yeah, there was definitely I mean, there's a whole history of radium and uranium golf balls. Golf balls seem to be like one of the biggest things to do with
I guess you
radioactivity.
don't want to lose your balls, I suppose.
No,
All
I
those
mean,
night golfing episodes.
there's night golfing, so it glows in the dark. There was a point where they put a little bit of uranium in golf balls. So the idea would be that you would, if you lost your golf ball, and I don't know the technical terms of in the rough or something, you would go after it with a Geiger counter to find it.
Oh,
Of course,
well, that's handy. Yeah. I guess,
So,
I don't know.
yeah.
I would want to hit it really, really hard.
There's tons of radioactive golf balls. One of the weirdest aspects of writing the radium and then the uranium book is how much golf is involved. Who could have ever guessed? I've become comfortable that I have to learn a lot about mining. I've been comfortable with all of these other things, but golf, just too much. It's too much.
It's asking too much right there. Well, when I do want to also chat with you about my favorite story in this book is the most horrible one. It's the drinking the radium water and like bones and jaws rotting out from inside you, and that like the guy just dissolves in. That's mind blowing. So I want to talk about that, but I also want us to bring on some other folks who have spent a lot of time doing research with radium and about radium and even singing about radium. And so I wonder if I can summon them also with an ink explosion. We'll see if we can pull this off. Right? Are you guys ready? There they are.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Good to see you.
It's lovely to see you too. And I see once again, as hard as I try, I will never be as on point as you guys with the eyeliner. But I
What are you talking
can hear
Eyeliner?
like better. Right. Sorry, forgot. I know you guys have done a bunch of research too, and so I was wondering if we could chat a little. I know you've read Lucy's book, but also you've done quite a bit of research for Our Lady of Radium.
Indeed, we have. Lucy, I enjoyed your book very much.
So much. So
It's true. We have done a lot of reading and research on our own. I feel like we probably read a lot of the same source material, you and us, when we were working on Our Lady of Radium, our new album inspired by Marie Curie and her work and its repercussions. So we ended up with a handful of songs that are really about radium, and it was so delightful hitting some of those same points in your book. We have a song that is inspired by the miners in the Carpathian Mountains. I also cannot say the name of that town. Yeah.
It's really hard.
It's really hard.
I didn't
know.
But one of the things that really struck me about that story is the idea that the most advanced medical theory of the time attributed the mysterious mountain sickness to dwarves who dwelled deep in the mines and had cursed the stolen ore. And then the other thing about that story that I noticed in a book that you probably came across in your research as well, Deadly Sunshine. So he mentions that, like, just as an aside, that like some of the women married to these miners would have had like 7 husbands in succession because like they died, and that this culture of lace making arose in that region because the women were trying to create like filters because it was a respiratory illness from the inhaled dust. And like, unfortunately, you cannot make lace that fine. But
it was the right idea.
It was the right idea, kind of.
No, it's really interesting. I have been thinking a lot about that recently with the whole mask thing as well.
Sure.
How beautiful to have like this lace, very fine lace that would work. I'm not a medical person, and I'm sure lace doesn't work.
Yeah, but it has to be like really nice lace.
Yeah, and when you go to Yakimov, there are dwarf motifs all over the places. There are there's lots of references to it in the main village. Like there's little carvings and things like that. It's a real thing there.
I mean, what struck us as, I mean, so you did this research and you came out with this brilliant book that is such a great voice you have in the book. Like it breaks down the information in a way that is so like digestible. It's so ezy
and it's so clear.
Yeah.
It's great.
I wasn't expecting this.
Well, we're fans.
Yeah, we're fans.
I was going to tell you how much a fan I was of you, actually.
But like, where was I going with this? Oh, so for us, like our final product was like a very different thing because we were looking to create a cycle of songs. And so all the sort of metaphorical, mythological things that we came across, like those were the things that we really grabbed onto. Right. So for instance, the idea that it was some sort of evil spirit in the mine, like that seems like pretty accurate to us. We're like, oh yes, like because it turns out that pitch blend contains all these radioactive elements, and so yes, the ore is cursed. It is cursed.
It is cursed. You're right. I love that.
And like just the sort of poetic logic of pitch blend coming from the word pech blend, which means bad luck mineral. It's like, yeah, it is unlucky.
Yeah,
totally.
Very unlucky for many reasons.
Yeah, and I mean, I unfortunately, I feel there's going to be a resurgent interest in nuclear and radiation things now that we have a renewed concern about like another world war or being cursed by dwarves or hit by nuclear weapons or something. So I do think that
tomato. Yeah, I know. Lucy, you like us, you probably didn't intend to be quite so topically relevant in this moment.
No, I mean, like when I pitched a book about uranium specifically to my publishers last year, who knows what year it is, but when I pitched it, it was like, oh, this is an interesting thing. But now it is. I get asked to comment a lot, and I'm refusing to at the moment. But I get asked a lot about Chernobyl at the moment, and the Russians claiming that their soldiers have had radiation sickness from being at Chernobyl and things like that. Yes, I was never expecting to be quite so. Yes.
On top of it.
On top. Yes.
Oh yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, I'd always thought about uranium as being something that we thought of, nuclear power, nuclear energy, something that we'd feared. But this is it's changed again, hasn't it?
Yeah. It has. It's sort of like I'm a death researcher and I got really popular suddenly with COVID, and that is not a reason that you want to be popular at all. Like that's suddenly I have people call me like, hey, you're a death expert. I'm like, oh no, I don't like this.
No, I guess that's sort of the downside to like having your area of interest be dark things is like when you get popular, it's for like terrible
reasons. Usually not good reasons. Yeah. It's like, oh, people are on the same token though, we're representing three really different ways of handling this, right? We've got a book and I've got a show and we have creative artists. And so I thought, since it's about our midpoint in the show, if you guys wanted to share with us a little music, we would be really interested in hearing some. And then I'm going to come right back to our questions for Lucy afterwards. So I think if you're willing, you guys want to hear this, don't you?
We would be delighted. We have a question for the audience, and maybe it's a question for Lucy actually. So we narrowed it down to two songs that we thought were the most appropriate to play in the show. One is inspired by what we were just talking about, which is the folklore of the mountains with the cursed or dwarves thing. And the other one is a song that's really about radium itself, its physical properties and its mythological properties. And it's a song that's very dense with references. I mean, they kind of both are, but we were thinking like rarely will we encounter an audience as likely to actually pick up all the references as here. So we thought we'd let you pick.
Well, I want both, so
well,
can't help it. I mean, I'm not.
We need a vote. What about you guys, peculiars? I also see your questions. Don't worry, I'm going to get back to those here in a minute. Do we have a vote? Mountain trolls or science notes?
Well, it's like alchemy. It's like science and alchemy. It's like,
Science
you
and
know.
oh wow. Well, okay. Let's see. I feel like I know what Mike Breen's going to suggest, but I could be wrong. It takes a minute. We have to catch up. Radium song, radium reference us, right? Radium song.
All right.
Okay. Let's do the radium song.
Let's do the radio.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Here we go.
Can we?
We're gonna sneak you guys back into the.
All right. Here we go. All right. I'm just gonna click the thing on our audio settings that make it sounds pretty. Okay. Here we go. All right. The song is called "Power of the Sun," and the things that you might want to know going in are that the abbreviation for radium is RA, Ra, and yeah, I think that's probably.
Yeah, we don't have to explain everything.
Yeah, you'll get it. Silvery white in color, blackening in the air. The metal rusts as soon as it's forged. A powder as unremarkable as commonplace table salt. But throw it over your shoulder and it's transformed. Is it the burning bush of Moses, how the fires don't go out? Or that old perpetual motion that we've dreamed so long about? And the glowing tubes of glass look like enchanted fairy lights. Suspended in the darkness, they are gleaming in the night. What have we done?
We've set in motion.
We're flying to
chain reaction,
close to the sun,
natural progression,
out of control.
The power of the
what
sun.
Have we done?
We've set in motion.
We're flying to
chain reaction,
close to the sun,
natural progression,
out of control.
The power of the sun. Irresponsible. The genie is out of the bottle with a fever to boil its own weight in ice. It's the alpha and omega and gamma and beta. Passes through matter with x-ray eyes. It was a god in ancient Egypt when the pyramids did rise. By the light of that eternal burning disk up in the sky. And the chariot descended to the darkness underground. The golden horse-drawn carriage was too heavy to slow down. What have we done? We've set in motion. We're flying to chain reaction, close to the sun, natural progression, out of control. The power of the sun. What have we done? We've set in motion. We're flying to chain reaction, close to the sun, natural progression, out of control. The power of the sun. No mistaking alchemical transmutation, continual cycle of death and rebirth, chemistry of the invisible, hidden in mineral, scattered like glittering stars in the earth. You're chasing down a vision, though the nights are dark and long. You can hear it calling in the Geiger counter song. And the crucible is glowing as it burns away your fears. The great work that you undertake lasts 1600 years. Bad luck, hard rock, no matter how you slice it or break it apart. Live once, die twice. Find a little magic, it won't play nice.
All right.
That was Power of the Sun.
I loved it. Everybody loved it. It was fantastic. I
So good.
I love it. Clap, clap. There's a lot of clapping. Clapping. What an ending. Yes, I agree. I do feel like I need an applause track because I know you guys are clapping, but I have no way of showing them that you are. But I know it's happening.
So we did an album release recently for Our Lady of Radium, and we had like a tech director who could really like do lighting and stuff. So we had a full blackout on that song. Once we went into the siren, it was like,
oh, that is awesome.
It was very spooky.
Speaking of blackout.
Yeah.
We have our black light.
We have some radium glass. Uranium
glass. Show off our radium glass.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Perfect.
I love it. I'm actually attempting to put, so this is hilarious. Not having Davey on the show and having fat fingers makes the whole typing of thing. It was lovely. You know, Charming Disaster sent me these wonderful links that I could just plug in, except I can't get my email to work on the same computer that I'm doing the other stuff. So yeah, because you know, that's how I roll. I'm just typing them right now. No problem. So there's one. There's that one.
Oh yeah, that's our website.
That's their website. Most important one.
You can find everything from there.
You can find everything there. I do have the band. I did put the Bandcamp up on your little nameplate thingy, but yeah, it's really great how much I appreciate Davey. We appreciate Davey, do we not? He's something else. Because I feel like a one person. I feel like I'm pitching and catching. I'm all like. All right. We did get some more questions, and I'm just going to keep you both up here because, frankly, I feel like this is a fun conversation that we can all jump in on. Actually, I don't know anything about radium, so you guys can. First of all, so Christopher Maddox says he has you guys just walking around with like weird, interesting stuff in your. All I have are dead bodies. So Jennifer.
Yeah, Trinitite is very exciting, isn't it? I mean, having some of that is naughty but lovely.
Naughty, cheap. Okay. Jennifer asked, anything more about fabric? Because that is really interesting. She said, assume the original clothing is gone. But it seems like radium permeated every aspect of culture. I wouldn't have thought about fashion. And I do think about fashion when it comes to stuff like Paris green and poison. But you're right. I didn't think about that in terms of radium, especially the whole clothing thing.
No, and this is where it becomes a bit interesting about whether it actually contained radium or not. Because Paris green, things like that, arsenic was permeating fabric. I mean, it totally was.
It was a beautiful color. I mean,
it's lovely, and it was a way of making that green. It was an accepted way of making that green, and it was making a very vibrant green. Radium fabrics. You don't really know if something contains radium or not, do you? I mean, it's invisible, and there are a lot of quacks and charlatans who say that their products contain radium and they don't. I taught, I should really read my own book, but I can't remember if I talked in the book too much about the radium silhouette corset or not. I've certainly written blog posts and articles about it.
I just read the book. I don't recall the corset. I do remember the thing you put in your hat.
Interesting.
I think I vaguely referred to it. So there is something called the silhouette radiant corset. that comes out in the mid-1930s. And it's produced by a company that goes on to make the Little X girdle in the 50s. So it's a big company. They are a well-known, accepted brand. But in the 30s, they have a corset that says is permeated with radioactive material, and they don't really specify exactly what it is, but it will, take note, make you slimmer, make you feel more vibrant.
Interesting.
Something else as well, but they're the key things. You're going to be thin and hot and feel like you're in your 20s or something, just by wearing their corset. But they're very unspecific about exactly what the radioactive material is and how it works. So there's things like that in terms of fashion and fabrics. I've never seen an example of this. I mean, it was on sale. Mm-hmm. Got loads of adverts about it, but I don't know anyone that has one. In terms of fabrics, there is a lady in Australia that has like a radium blanket, and it was used in sanitariums. And if you went to a sanitarium for tuberculosis, for instance, they used to wrap you in a radium blanket because that would make you healthier. But again, there is no radioactivity in it. It is just literally a name. I mean, it's just a blanket. Yeah, there is no way that this is permeated with radium, because the only way you can permeate fabrics with radioactivity, unless it's actually like a mud inside a corset, is to put it next to something that's radioactive, so it will, infuse.
Right, like Marie Curie's, her security blanket. Might be radioactive.
Right.
Yeah, that would be radioactive. Anything that was hanging around Marie Curie, her dresses would be radioactive for a while. But yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things that I found really fascinating in your book, is the idea that radium was like also just a word that meant like it's new, it's
new and cool.
Right. It's like it became a sort of almost me. I mean, I know that those products were purporting to contain radium mostly, but some of them were like, I mean, like if you had like a makeup product that said sunshine on it, you wouldn't assume that it included actual sunshine. It'd be like, oh, it like alludes to something that is like shiny and and that so much of it was that. I mean, it's for the best, I guess.
Yeah, radium is doing something else. I mean,
I think.
I'll just
yes.
These are radium condoms.
Radium condoms. We all just take a moment?
Hang on, there. Radium condoms. So this is Mutex radium condoms. There is nothing on the packaging, the advertising, anywhere that these contain radium as a substance. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter, because radium here means I'm going to be so British here, and I'm going to go. Radium here means, it means rejuvenation. It means sexuality. It means firmness. It means all of these things. It doesn't mean that these products contain radium. They just mean that they're going to make you younger and firmer, quite frankly.
Right.
It's hard to even think of something that's similar now. Like I struggle to come up with like an equal.
Trojan condoms probably aren't made in ancient Troy. Ramses probably not. Does not include any mummy parts.
Ramses condoms are not going to make you live for 90 odd years.
Right. Yeah.
Have many wives and many kids. But I mean, it is a tradition of condoms for a start.
Right. That's true. I used to work in a museum of contraception, and we had a whole collection of condoms and their little and so every time a new movie, like when Lawrence of Arabia came out, there were the Arabia condoms, Lawrence. But my favorite, because it doesn't work today. It does not work today. Okay, so soldiers were called doughboys. But doughboy condom doesn't exactly sell a sense of virility to me, really.
No, it's like a Mr. Softy condom. it doesn't go over too well.
It doesn't quite work. Teresa says, I recently read The Radium Girls by Kate Moore, which is just one set of women at one watch factory. Half-Lives covers so much more. Was there something you needed to leave out but wanted to keep? And I always, oh God, every book is like that, right? So was there anything that you had to, that, you know, is still on the cutting room floor?
The thing about Radium Girls by Kate Moore is it is the most magnificent book. It's fantastic. It's heartbreaking and awesome and thrilling and yeah, it's everything. But there was one thing about the book that that made me think. In the beginning of it, she has one of the girls that ends up being a radium girl, and she's left the factory at the end of the day, and she's singing the radium dance, which was in the book, it's really interesting because it's all about how these girls are really enthused by radioactivity. They're enthused by radium. It's fashion. It's everything. But the Radium Dance was actually like a very minor song in 1903 in one production. And I know exactly why the author did that, because it's a wonderful way of getting people into it. But when I read it, it made me think, there's more to this than just one woman singing one song. I may not be explaining this properly, but I wanted to know more. And that book came out as I was doing the research. And yes, The Radium Girls is a massive story, but it's not the only story. And one of the things is that when I went into researching my book, I was thinking, well, shit. Sorry. Am I allowed to swear on this?
No, we do that. It's fine. Yeah.
North Americans, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear or not.
Oh God, I used to get in trouble. I used to get in trouble a lot as a professor. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
Okay. I just say because I do talks for another organization, and I got told off. One of the comments came in saying that I swore too much and I was drinking alcohol.
Oh dear! If you say bloody on an American show, it won't even register because that's like not even a swear.
Yeah, that's true. We don't even know. Like,
I just checked. But I knew there was more. The Radium Girls has been very, very well written about. So there's Kate Moore. There's also Samantha Wilcoxon, who's written like a more of a fiction version of it. But these are really, really interesting people. But there is more to it. And I was thinking, you know, like, well, of course, if lots of people have suddenly started getting really ill, this is pre-COVID, by the way.
Right.
If people started getting really ill, we'd stop doing what we were doing, wouldn't we? And they didn't.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know why, because the Radium Girls, like the massive backlash is like 1927, 28, 29 onwards. But these products are still going, and it's not just the Radium Girls. There's a guy called, which you talked about earlier, Eben McBurney Byers, who drinks so much radium water that his jaw literally rots off.
Well, and it's not jaw he loses part of his face.
And he is an industrial millionaire. He is so well known. You know, the descriptions of him, his jaw rotting off, is in Time magazine. And I went into this project going, well, this is definitely the end of this. I mean, no one's going to take this, are they? But actually, in 1930, he dies in 1932. He's really ill in 1932, dies in 1933. There is a resurgence of this in 1933. He dies, people have more radium. What is that story? And
yeah.
Well, you know what's so strange, Lucy, is reading your book, having done a great deal of reading already about this subject ourselves, and like knowing what we know. Even so, reading this book, reading the sort of descriptions of the therapeutic applications of ingested radium, I'm like, oh, like that sounds kind of good. Like a lot of people are doing it. Like maybe, yeah, like that seems fine.
Well,
I
we're
mean,
ready to go to the radium spa.
we're
That's-
such
I know.
social creatures, and like,
Can I tell you something about having a radium spa myself?
Yeah.
please.
This is not for anywhere out of here. But
This
This
is on
is,
YouTube.
you know, this is on the internet, right?
when I had Yakimov and I had my radium spa, so I am a type 1 diabetic and I am a shit type 1 diabetic. So my blood sugar is like up and down and terrible and awful. I went and had a radium spa in Yakimov, and I swear to God, for like a month afterwards, my blood sugar was like this.
We all need just is it about amounts, like very small amount of radium, it's okay.
I mean, is this like a dose makes the poison kind of situation? Where
Yeah.
like,
I'm not going to comment on any of it, but I found it incredibly interesting.
Fair enough.
Whether it is just like a psychological
Placebo kind of thing?
or placebo,
sure, placebo's
or anything.
powerful, or yeah, I mean,
Well, so I could also say about like the Russian troops in Ukraine who like had to be shipped to a hospital because they felt that in Chernobyl, because they felt like they had too much radiation. I was reading a thread today that it might just be psychological, that they they were
kind of
in
group
Chernobyl.
hysteria,
Yeah, they felt like they were tired and stressed.
Right. I wonder why.
who doesn't?
Tired and stressed.
This is the
Fascinating.
thing that permeates all of this. What is psychological? What is real?
Yeah, I actually keep hitting this button twice. I've accidentally. Sorry, guys. I haven't quite figured this out again, but I do want to get to this question by Anna Lopez Carr because I'm dying to know what is like this now. What parallels it? Like, there's got to be something. I mean,
There's lots of stuff that's like this now. I mean,
but I mean pervasive because ivermectin is
pervasive and like definitely deadly. I mean, well, we might not know yet what it is. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that's like poorly proven and like hopefully at worst neutral. But I mean, from essential oils to certain like dietary fads to
homeopathic medicine.
I mean, sure, ivermectin. Somebody mentioned ivermectin.
Yeah. It's just so interesting because I think that. And maybe it's simply that there isn't one product. Maybe that's what it is. Like there's all these different things, these different fads. It's not like we have the thing that everybody's like, oh no, we can't have that. But we just don't agree. There's plenty of them, but we don't agree. Like goop has been mentioned several times here, and we have the ivermectin. People were drinking bleach or something like there was, some bleachiness.
Are y'all into the Sawbones podcast? I don't know if it's cool to mention like non-Peculiar Book Club media outlets on the show, but
some people are.
I don't enjoy podcasts, but that is the exception to the rule for me because like I love hearing about like quack medicine things debunked by smart, funny people. And there seems to be like an endless source of topics for that show.
We don't horse dewormer.
Lucy, I wanted to mention a couple of things that I learned from your book that I thought were so interesting. Having done a lot of independent research on this very topic, one of which was the fact that when they were looking at Marie Curie and her like, because she was exposed to like massive quantities of radiation through the course of her life, but she apparently had like a pretty high tolerance for it. But you mentioned kind of in passing that it was her exposure to X-rays from her work with the X-ray trucks that is probably the thing that did her in, and like that was like fascinating to me.
Someone else up here had just mentioned X-rays and the X-rays that they did in shoe stores. Essential oils today.
Well, it's one of those things like Pierre Curie who died in 1906. He probably almost definitely died from his radium exposure. I mean, he was for those who, so this is Pierre Curie, who's Marie Curie's husband. He had So he died. Well, there's lots of different vagueness about this, but he basically was walking down a street one day.
It was raining.
It was raining. He was distracted.
He was carrying an umbrella. It was raining, and
he fell in front of a horse wagon, and it was really grim and horrible. And the theory is that he died because he was weak through his radioactivity research.
There was a quote from one of his friends that was like, he had a Paris walk. Like, basically, Pierre Curie knew how to cross the fucking street in Paris.
Yeah.
Like, if he got run down, it was because of something else.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
It's hard to diagnose these things because I don't think it's really been ever properly investigated. I don't know how they went. In terms of Marie Curie, I mean, when they quite frankly dug her up to move her from the cemetery, the local cemetery where she wanted to be buried with her husband, and moved her into the big national cemetery in France. It's hard to know with these things because often they people are very scared of radioactivity.
Right.
They're scared of people who they think they've been involved in radioactivity. But the official story is that she was dug up, and the people that were responsible for digging her up, God, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? They
body snatchers who went to go get her.
She was buried in several coffins. One was lead, blah 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 blah. But they investigated, and it's not radioactivity in terms of radium that was killed her. It was X-rays, and she was really. I mean, one of the amazing things about Marie Curie is that her and her daughter went to the front lines of in World War One. They went to the front lines, and they took their sort of mobile X-ray machines.
Which Curie built herself because she was handy, because she knew how to like fix a bicycle.
And she made it happen.
By golly, you can build an X-ray machine.
That's what we left out of our album.
That was one.
Yeah, we didn't do that song on the album, but we talked about it a lot.
And she went and she I mean, I gave a talk this week about X-rays actually, and it's such a massive thing that you could take a mobile X-ray machine to the front lines, to the battlefields of a war, whatever war it is. And you can save the limbs, you can save the lives of these soldiers because you can see where the bullets are.
Right.
It's huge, because otherwise they were just like digging around blind, because X-rays existed, but only in the state-of-the-art hospitals, which happened to not be on the front lines of the battle. Like,
and if you didn't have that,
truth is, like, all of our peculiar events are just like colliding. We've got radium corsets and corseted skeletons and body snatchers.
Bingo.
Roger said, this reminds me for
I just saw avocados and coconut here. I've missed.
Oh yeah. We were talking about things that were cure-alls, and we've got kale, avocado, coconut, and then someone said, "Don't besmirch avocados," said Mike Breen, and Susan Kahn was like, team avocado.
Yeah, avocados are delicious and not poisonous. So let's lay off the poor
There's
avocados.
charcoals and everything now.
Yeah.
Charcoal, that's true. Aloe, ginger. I actually do use aloe and ginger quite often. There, a whole poison garden. I'm just saying. So yes,
there's that thing. I mean, there's gold, for instance. No one wants it, but I'm pitching a book
silver, colloidal
silver, and silver and things like that. Yeah.
Books let us down the path to radium amazingness.
Yeah.
We've arrived.
Yeah. PSA, if you're a werewolf, do not take colloidal silver.
Yeah, that's not good for you.
No.
After you'd be like, I don't know.
Not the hard way.
My husband was mauled by a dog a while ago, and he went. This sounds like a weird thing. We live near where like a nunnery is, and he went to go see. The nuns found him, and they gave him colloidal silver to sort him out.
So wait a minute. So Lucy's husband is mauled by a werewolf outside a nunnery, and so colloidal silver.
So was it a nun werewolf that mauled your husband?
Oh yeah, they're like she gets out from time to time, once a month.
Yeah, but if you take this silver, you won't become a werewolf.
Yeah, you'll be fine. I mean, there's a
They
whole.
probably knew what they were
You're trying to pitch a book on gold. Like you gotta be writing fictional stories about your. That's yeah. I agree. That's like that. I mean, you know, there's some peculiar anecdotes on this show, but I think my husband was mauled by a wolf outside of a nunnery and given silver is the. You win. You win. Actually,
I think
speaking
she
of
said
winners,
werewolf.
I think she did too. Speaking of winners, we actually do have two other winners, and I almost forgot. And then we also have a treat for all of you because I know we're getting kind of late in the show, but we've asked, and Charming Disaster has agreed to show us their video, their Radium Girls video, which is really cool. So, but first, we do have two more winners. I actually we for a while we weren't doing the drawings because I am tired, but we started redoing the drawings again. And tonight, Inez Lindsay, are you with us? I haven't actually seen you post yet, but you might be here. Let's see. I'm just gonna put your name in the chat. Inez, are you there? You are our drawing winner for a t-shirt. And Paige Turner, you are our drawing winner for a Charming Disaster album. So Paige, are you here? Paige Turner, by the way, is the best name ever.
Yeah.
For this show, anyway.
That's
So
gotta be a pseudonym, right?
Yeah. So I don't see you guys, but hopefully you're here, and I will get in touch with you. There is a werewolf movie that is a werewolf nun. That's amazing.
Velocipaster.
Velocipaster, as Mike Green says, is pure art. If you haven't seen it, you actually really should. Anyway, so Inez Lindsay and Paige Turner, yay you, hurrah! You have won some stuff, and Jerry Lloyd and Tori Trent as well. And I will be sending stuff out to you. So, without further ado, I do want us to get to this wonderful video. It's won some awards, if I'm not wrong.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's...
Academy Awards. I think it's something like that.
In the future. In the future.
In the future. Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and turn that on, and actually I'm gonna let you guys do that.
We'll do that.
We're ready.
Okay, all right, ready.
And when it's over, what happens then? Will we come back?
Come back to us. Yes, come back to us, and we'll do our sign off and say goodnight to everybody.
All right. Without further ado, please enjoy our award-winning video, Radium Girls.
Ice in the brush with the tip of your tongue. Delicate touch for the lines that you're painting. A second-hand sweeps round the face of the clock. You number the hours and they glow in the dark. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. All those factories so invisible. Dressing your best like you're going to church. They show you your desk with the rest of the workers. Radium girls make a generous wage, breaking the dawn of the nuclear age. It's a miracle. All those factory girls so invisible. Gonna light up the world. It's a miracle. All those factory girls so invisible. Gonna light up the world. For any disease, we can give you the cure. Your bones turn to dust by the light of the future. The darker the night, the more face of the clock. You number the hours, and they glow in the dark.
That is beautiful. I love that. I totally love this.
Thank you.
So good.
The animator's name is Omar Gal, and he is a true artist.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I have done oops, there we go. I have done some stop motion animation, and it is, oh my God, not easy, and that is just a beautiful, really awesome thing. It's gorgeous. I agree. Totally to be proud of. Says Lexi, says, add this to my nuclear chem lessons. Yes.
Please.
That's awesome. This has been a wonderful evening, all of you. I'm so excited about this book. I actually got, like I said, I got to be part of the original launch, and I just wanted to give her a forum where I feel like she's, Lucy's among friends, among those of us who really get it. We're like, yeah, we're right there with you. Yeah, we're there.
It's definitely a
Thank you.
peculiar type of book, isn't it?
It's perfect for us. It's totally perfect for us. Lucy, thank you. Thank you so much. And you said you are working on another book now.
Yeah, it's kind of follow-up, but it's kind of complement to it. So it's about uranium. So I'm going to trace the history of uranium specifically. So uranium and radium are, I'm not going to get into science, but uranium and radium are kind of like the same thing, but they're not, because it's
right. Doing
so
similar.
I'm going to look at the ways that uranium has been culturally appropriated and thought of, specifically how we think about nuclear energy today and nuclear power in general. So nuclear bombs, nuclear energy, and the things that have happened in the past that make us scared of nuclear energy today.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is
and I think
an incredibly contentious subject, but
but also quite prescient at this point in time.
Yes.
So I'm so glad. I'm really excited, and then we'll have another reason to have you on. Charming Disaster, thank you both for being on. It's always wonderful to see you. You guys are amazing. And thank all of you, Peculiars, for being here at a place where, I know you've heard me say this a million times, if you're weird, you're family.
That's right.
Now I have to figure out how to turn on the branding at the end, which is harder than it looks. There it is. Close.